Hello everyone, this is Newbie and welcome to the first review for this channel. We'll be reviewing Final Fantasy XIV, an MMO that debuted several years ago with a somewhat controversial opening before undergoing a redesign into Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. Now, I first played this game about a year ago, made it to around level 18 on one of my characters, but decided it wasn't quite for me. Recently, I've returned to the game and was asked to give my input as a new player to this MMORPG. So let's get started and hope you enjoy. First, we'll start with the pros of Final Fantasy XIV. First of all, the environments are beautifully rendered and sculpted. For the most part, the areas, even the indoor ones, are unique. They don't feel repetitive, In other MMOs, especially in Star Wars The Old Republic, you would go into one building, then you'd go to a completely different planet, go inside, hey look, same building, even between the Empire and the Republic and all of that. So it's a nice change to see that in Final Fantasy, that there is that uniqueness to the buildings and to the environments. A second good part about Final Fantasy XIV is that all the classes are available to a single character. You're able to change almost on demand, whether you want to start out as a gladiator and then move on to a conjurer or that sort of thing, which is it's a decent feature. There's other MMOs that have implemented this. Not too many come to this level of customization, though. The only one that I think comes close is Star Wars Galaxies, but that is an old MMO, especially Star Wars Galaxies, before the combat update, which is what I was thinking of in this particular instance. So and even that didn't have the ability to change classes without losing anything, as Final Fantasy does. So that is a great feature. Finally, the looting mechanics in Final Fantasy are also good. You don't have to worry about, if you participate in a fight, whether you get there late or whether you get there, started off. No one's going to steal a kill from you or anything like that. You'll get the XP, you'll get the little bit that comes from the creature and all of that, and that's decent. Now mostly what comes from the creatures are crafting supplies, things that are used to build stuff, that sort of thing. So it's nothing really major, no major loot out in the overworld, but it's still decent. And then when it comes to the dungeons or duties as they're called in game, those are taken care of pretty much role mechanic, greed for basic items, need if it's something that you actually need, and you're restricted to needing items that are, part of what you actually need for the class that you're playing, so that's pretty nice too. Now we gotta deal with negatives. The story of Final Fantasy XIV is, especially starting out, elusive. It just seems that you're sort of thrown in, and I think that's part, at least from reading up on it, partly due to the whole change from the original Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn. But it still feels off, especially starting out. Things get explained later on, but it doesn't have that hook like other Final Fantasy games and other, MMOs have, especially Star Wars The Old Republic. As far as story goes, Star Wars The Old Republic is a great game. It keeps you engaged through the whole plot, so it is definitely something that sort of makes Final Fantasy XIV pale in comparison. Another thing about it is there's no in-game bestiary or codex, and this is something that other Final Fantasy games have had, Some of the older ones have had a bestiary where you would be able to look up, basic information on the creatures that are around. At most, Final Fantasy XIV just has a hunting log, but it doesn't give any information on the creatures or anything like that, besides location. So, to me, that was a missed opportunity. I know there are some MMOs that make use of like a codex, like Star Wars The Old Republic. So that was something that I felt, especially for a game that seems in some ways intended for role-playing, that it was a missed opportunity. There's also weird transitions between spoken cutscenes back over to text-only cutscenes. Now, I understand some of the need for that. There are some instances where the player's name is referenced, and obviously can't do that in most games nowadays, using a player's name, especially some of the weird ones that come up in an MMO. But at the same time, it seemed really off when they did it, and like you'd be in the middle of a cutscene, they'd be talking, a moment later they'd be talking, but it'd be all text then, and it just didn't feel right as far as setting up the whole scene overall. I've also played this game on the PS4. I'll give one good thing, is that the fact that they've included joint play between players on PS4 and players on PC is great. It's something you don't see on a lot of games even nowadays, and it's something that should be done more. At the same time, though, I didn't really like the PS4 controls. It was sort of clunky, that in some ways they sort of just converted using the touchpad on the PS4 to just, act as a mouse, which doesn't quite work as well as you might think. I found, especially while tanking, that while you might do all right in the basic world, trying to do a duty with the PS4 controls is just horrible. Both with targeting as well as just, it didn't feel like it reacted as well as I would have wanted. So that was another problem as far as the game goes. Finally, honestly, the quests themselves in Final Fantasy are lacking. There are a lot of roaming quests where you go talk to an NPC or you do some menial task. And it's not just killing groups of enemies like you might see in World of Warcraft, but it's actually go talk to this person, then go all the way across the area to talk to another person. Or, as you will see right here, going around and dancing in front of a bunch of people in a village to impress the flying plant people. Flying plant people. Try and say that 3 times fast. Yeah, horrible. Alright, well, yeah, it's just, even with the inclusion of all the dialogue, it's gotten to the point where I just click through it. I don't even pay attention to it. And that's something you really shouldn't want in your game, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done that. So it feels like a waste of the dialogue, that they could have done something to keep it more interesting, even without spoken dialogue. So that was sort of a failure as far as the game goes. Now, as a final note on Final Fantasy XIV, I'll say that the game does improve as you get higher in levels. After level 20, things did get a little bit better as far as the questing goes and all that. But overall, I give the game a 6 out of 10. It has some decent moments, but it really doesn't hook me as far as an MMORPG goes. It lacks some of the magic that other Final Fantasy games have had, and overall, it was an alright game, but it's not something I see myself staying subscribed for. If it was a free-to-play game, it might be a different story, I might check it out more, but as it is right now, having gone back to it, I don't see myself staying with it. That's the conclusion for this Final Fantasy XIV review. Hope you enjoyed. If you disagree with some of my assessments, feel free to leave something in the comments below. Feel free to stay tuned. We'll have more Let's Play videos and reviews coming up on the channel in the future. Looking to have new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So, hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next video.